Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So I'm coming back to a deck that I've been meaning to come back to for quite some time, that I really wanted to cover in this season and almost forgot to, but I barely managed to get it in for Season 27. That's another deck profile for Gold Pride Punk. And it's funny, what actually reminded me to even make this video to, build this deck and play with it, was actually watching some Duel lives over with our patrons on Patreon. For those who don't know, I actually do have a Patreon. The link to it is going to be in the description below. I offer two different tiers. For $5 a month, you can sub and get exclusive daily content. Sometimes it's previews of videos that are coming out within the next couple of days, but a lot of the time it's exclusive content that's only on the Patreon. Duels that you're not going to see on YouTube, and a lot of what we do is actually Duel lives, where I'll watch Duel lives and we'll just commentate over some of those games, right? Also offer Q&As, and the other tier rather is for coaching. I do offer a tier in which, in addition to all of the exclusive content on Patreon, you also get a monthly 1-hour coaching session with me. So if you're interested, again, description below, go ahead and check out the Patreon there. It would be much appreciated if you did. But either way, yeah, watching a Duel on one of those videos on the Duel Live, somebody playing this deck, is what made me be like, oh yeah, I need to play this deck again, because I didn't play it last season, and it kind of bummed me out that I didn't. I love Punk, and I love the Gold Pride deck too. I think they're both really, really cool archetypes, and it's definitely a deck that I've wanted to explore more since it has come out. So for this build here, I mean, the thing about this deck is that as far as like disruption tools and hand traps go, something that I really value in this meta, you don't have as much room as in some other decks, like Snake Eye or Mathmech, stuff like that. But I don't think this is a huge issue for a deck like Gold Pride Punk. Because even if you don't open as many hand traps, you have a lot of different ways that you can play, and especially in our extract, we have a lot of different tools that are available to us for a lot of different situations as well. So for those who are not familiar with this deck at all, basically the idea here is that we're mainly a Punk deck, right? I would consider us probably first and foremost a Punk deck with the Gold Pride engine as our supporting cast. So mainly looking to start our plays with Xayamine and or Foxy Tune. That'll let us go into the Rising Carp, making the Jam Dragon Drive, using Wagon and the Deer Note, getting the Field Spell, getting a bunch of draws, and not only that, but also all of the Punk tuners have effects that require you to pay life points, so naturally that makes the Gold Pride a good candidate for another engine to play alongside Punk here. What Gold Pride in particular offers is a lot of disruption alongside what Punk can already do. Punk's main form of disruption is going for the Amazing Dragon, synchro summoning this during the opponent's turn to bounce multiple cards during their turn. The Gold Pride engine allows you to potentially go into the Pinballer also on the opponent's turn, which can equip multiple monsters. So what's really cool about this deck is that you mainly have a lot of reactionary disruption, not even necessarily negates, but other ways of removing cards from the field. But what's also cool is that you don't just destroy or even banish them, but you bounce them and or equip them, which will circumvent a lot of cards that want to go to the graveyard, want to be destroyed, or want to be banished, which does make up a good bit of the meta right now. So in that regard, Gold Pride does have some pretty unique tools that they can utilize against the meta. And again, even if they aren't able to play as much hand traps as a deck like Snake Eye, they still have a lot of gas that you can play into just the current meta as a whole. As far as the build itself goes, I think this is like, I don't really see many other ways I would build a Gold Pride Punk deck. I think cards that you could go fewer on, you don't need to max out on Leons. Like, you could definitely play 2 instead of 3. I do think you probably need at least 2, but don't necessarily need to play 3. Maybe another Ogre Dance if you want to see more Punk cards. My initial build did have a full playset, but I also wanted to keep it to 40 cards, and I had to fit stuff like the Field Spell, which funnily enough, for actually I think most of these games, I forgot to put the Field Spell in. So I know there's one game in particular where you'll see me summon Wagon and then just like not use it. It's because I totally forgot to put the Field Spell into my deck. But I mean, I will say with 3 Imperms, I think that splitting this between like one Valor, two Imperm, or maybe even the other way around, there is an argument for that. Particularly if you're drawing off of Max C, right? Valor just draws better off of Max C than Imperm, because of course Imperm requires you to not have any cards on the field, but it's kind of a catch-22 because then of course Valor can only be used on your opponent's turn, so, and it can also get hit by called by. It also cannot be used if a Rise Heart or Dimensional Fissure's on the field, so there's kind of like pros and cons. Looking back, I think maybe one Valor or two Imperm would have been the right ratio as far as like that goes, but I wasn't too dissatisfied with three Imperm as well. Yeah, and then again, having the one Nib is just good in this format, and also it's a good threat to draw from Max C. The Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre might look a little weird here if you're not familiar with this deck, like, why are we randomly playing a one of this over like other hand traps, but we can actually search this with the Jam Dragon Drive, so that's why we play a single copy of it, because, you know, having a searchable hand trap is extremely good, and Ghost Ogre is still very good in this meta. Might not be as good against like Snake Eye as Valor or Imperm, for example, but still has uses against that deck, and also still great against a lot of decks in general. For the extra deck, there is a ton of different ways that you can take it. I think as far as like cards that are like required, I would say are Rising Carp, Pinballer, Star Leon, at least one Jam Dragon Drive, Baron, Amazing Dragon, definitely Psychic End Punisher, definitely play Pep. This card is really, really good. Captain Carry, and then some amount of Zeus. Either Zeus itself, you don't even necessarily have to play Downward, but that's like, I would say consider like half of this extra deck non-essential. I do think it's good to have other 8s. In that regard, I've picked 2 of the better generic 8s. Dragite, we do have multiple ways to get Waters in the yard between Rising Carp and Captain Carry, and then Draco Berserker just has a good generic level 8 synchro. We also have a couple of rank 3 options, Fortune Tune, as well as Cicada King, in addition to the Chariot Carry, to potentially go into the Zeus. I also included Hope Harbinger because getting 2 level 8 monsters on the field is actually not difficult at all in this deck, but I almost wonder if, just given the meta, maybe Photon Lord would have been the better generic rank 8. That said, rank 8s in general, not necessary for this deck at all. Didn't have any games where I even was close to making the Hope Harbinger, but it is an option because of, like, not only our level 8 synchros, but also Foxy Tune and Ogre Dance can relatively easily special summon themselves, right? So, I do think that having at least Fortune Tune is good for the rank 3 option. This is a very, very good Zeus pilot to go downward Zeus. But the Cicada King, I think, also offers some potential disruption for the opponent's turn, right? If you get disrupted, like if your turn 1 play doesn't pan out the way you think or hope to, it's not hard to have 2 level 3 monsters on the field and to still be able to get, like, if nothing else, a monster effect negate that can, if you really want to, also special summon a Max C from the deck. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun option. We did go into it in one of these games, which I do believe we are going to see. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty quick rundown of the list. I am also going to break it down card by card, and then we will watch some of these duels. We are on 3 Max C, 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. We got 1 Yukio Punk Sharakusai, 1 Gagaku Punk Wagon, 1 Joruri Punk Madam Spider, 3 No Punk Zayamine, 3 Gold Pride Star Leon, 2 Gold Pride Captain Carry, 2 No Punk Deer Note, 1 Gold Pride Roller Baller, 3 No Punk Foxy Tune, 2 No Punk Ogre Dance, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Punk Jam Extreme Session, 2 Gold Pride Better Luck Next Time. We got 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Cross-Out Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Joruri Punk Dangerous Gabu, and then finally 1 copy of Gold Pride Start Your Engines. Alright, this is going to be it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're playing 1 Yukio Punk Rising Carp, 1 Gold Pride Pinballer, 1 Gold Pride Star Leon, 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. We got 1 Adamancipator Risen Dragite, 1 Punk Jam Dragon Drive, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Yukio Punk Amazing Dragon, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 number 49 Fortune Tune, 1 number 3 Cicada King, 1 Gold Pride Chariot Carry, 1 Downward Magician, 1 number 38 Hope Harbinger, Titanic Galaxy, and finally 1 Divine Arsenal, Zeus Sky Thunder. So there is our list. Let's see these duels. Okay, for our first game, let's see a duel against Tearlaments. As far as Gold Pride Punk's place on the tier list, I think it's probably I would call it an upper rogue deck. I think it's a really, really solid deck, and I think the only thing really keeping it out of tier 3 is just the power level of the rest of the meta right now. So opponent's going to get to go first. They're leading with Tearlaments Shiren, pitching the Mudora, and thankfully for me, they actually whiffed on their mills here. Milling Raidraptor, Rhoda, and Ash Blossom. They're going to end up setting 2 cards and passing. The Mudora might be a bit of a problem because I do need some amount of graveyard interaction for my plays, generally speaking, but they're going to lead with a Maxi, and I'm going to use Called by the Grave, and that's actually where the Mudora is going to come into play, which is a pretty good move on my opponent's part, right? Because by chaining Mudora and putting back the Maxi, as well as a couple of other cards, the Call by doesn't banish Maxi, which means it still resolves. So, being under Maxi, but also seeing how just generally non-impactful my opponent's turn 1 was, like, I don't want to play into this Maxi at all. So a lot of the time for me, what determines whether or not I'll play into a Maxi, especially on turn 2, is not only like the opponent's board state, how good it is, but also, and also of course what they're playing, but also their potential to brick, right? If my opponent has demonstrated to me during turn 1 that their hand is not that great, and then on turn 2 they Maxi me, I'm more inclined to just wait and not give them any draws if possible, and because then they'll still be bricked, right? My opponent still has to top deck a card here. And to be fair, a deck like Tearlaments doesn't often play Nibiru, so I probably could have played into their stuff and won just fine. But there's also Havness, there's also Ash Blossom. There's like any number of cards they could potentially have that I really don't want to deal with, in addition to their back row. So I'll play it safe here, and sure enough, they're just going to go to battle phase, switch to attack mode, and then battle over Zayameen anyway, so yeah, I think not playing into their Maxi was definitely the right call here. There are some situations where I do think you should definitely just, you know, play into it and go for lethal. But again, that's, you know, matchup to matchup, deck to deck. It can vary. So, opponent's going to imprint my Wagon here. That's 100% fine with me. Looking at the rest of my hand here, I have Foxy Tune. So, like, I definitely have plays in addition to my Gold Pride cards, and now that my life points are lower. Well, they were lower before, too, but also, Wagon does get to draw a card when a Punk monster is targeted, so I don't even just completely whiff on the search, right? Like, yeah, the field spell would have been great, but I wanted the field spell to get draws, and Wagon got me a draw anyway, so 100% fine here. Gonna Foxy Tune for Zayameen, then I can grab Zero Note and just sink for 8 that way. Now I get to make the Dragite here, and I do have I believe, yes, I have the Chariot Carry in the graveyard, because I discarded it for the Foxy Tune there. So, with that, I can also make the Psychic and Punisher. I'm going to summon out Leon here. I'm only doing this to have another monster on the field to banish for Psychic and Punisher. I definitely do not want to destroy Shiren by Star Leon's effect, because then that could potentially allow him to fuse, and I generally don't want that to happen. So, I'll just banish the Shiren instead, move to battle, gain the attack boost with Pep. I still have a spell Trap Negate up with the Dragite, and then we can just swing in for a game there. So, that's kind of what I mean when I say there's a lot of different ways that you can find lethal with this deck, or just make your plays in general. There are some dedicated combo lines for Punk, but this is definitely, and a lot of Punk variants are like this too, this is definitely the kind of deck where what you play, like, super depends on your hand, but it also depends on what your opponent plays as well. But again, that's also just kind of true of, like, every game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever, right? So, let's check out our next duel here. Okay, the next duel that we're going to take a look at for sure is this game against Kashtira. This was insane. This is going to be a 12-turn duel. 12-turn game against Kashtira, in which we are going to be taking the first turn this time. So, looking at my hand here, unfortunately, I didn't open Zayameen or Foxy Tune or a way to access either of them, right? So, I don't really have, like, the traditional full combo line, but I can definitely still make plays here. So I'm actually going to lead with Deer Note to special summon herself by pitching the Madam Spider, and then normal summoning Gold Pride Leon. With that, I'll Synchro Summon for 8, and I could have gotten Jam Dragon Drive, but I decided to get Draco Berserker for some interaction instead. Opponent's going to D-Shifter now, which is definitely, and Maxi. I think both of these were far too late. I'm wondering though what would have been the best time to do it. I think in either case, it would have been when I revealed Deer Note, right? Because in order to activate Deer Note, the condition is reveal one other punk monster in your hand, and that's the condition, right? So in response, they could have activated either effect. I'm not really sure why my opponent waited, but I'm very glad that they did wait on both. So I really only plan to summon one more time anyway. I'm just going to grab Madam Spider here and then activate her effect to get the Dangerous Gabu for another monster effect negate. I'll set both it and Imperm and then pass. So because of Shifter, I'm not able to use Maxi, but I'm actually really glad I have Draco Berserker against Kashtira specifically, because there's a lot of different ways that I can use this card to pretty good effect here. Opponent's not even going to activate Unicorn until main phase 2, in which case then I'm going to Gabu it. But, I mean, they knew I had both Gabu and, of course, they know about Draco Berserker, so makes sense why they wanted to battle with Unicorn first, and also why they didn't activate the effect. When Raidraptor activates the special itself, I can just chain Draco Berserker and banish it. I'm like, okay, if they birth and then bring it back, whatever, that's fine. I still have Imperm. But no, that's it. They don't have anything else for it. So we're looking really good here. Ash Blossom, not even a bad top deck in this situation, right? Like, yeah, I'm not drawing cards that'll, like, make me get a lot of plays or, like, really advance my board state and let me combo. But what I am drawing here is really letting me control the game. I want a maxi draw phase here in particular just to make sure that I can get any draws off their cards. They're going to set a monster pass. Love to see it. This is very good for me. Again, Ghost Ogre might not be a combo piece, but I am definitely still able to just keep advancing my board state here with what I have, all this disruption I have. 4 pieces of it at the moment here. God, the Draco Berserker especially. Cosmic Cyclone in the Year of Our Lord 2024. I gotta pause this card here. I gotta get my soapbox. Every time I see somebody play this, don't play this card. It's not good. I think there's much better background removal you could be playing. If I remember right from looking at my opponent's list, they're not even on Feather Duster. There's no reason to play this over Feather Duster. Like, yeah, I know there are some cards that have like graveyard effects, some back rows, but I guess to be fair, maybe they're trying to snipe is what I meant to say. Maybe they're trying to snipe like Flamberges that end up in the spell trap zone or something. But even then, that's like such a niche case use. I don't think it's ever been correct to play Cosmic Cyclone. I always gonna get on the soapbox when I see this card. Don't play it. It's not a good card, in my opinion. So now we are finally getting to our E-Telly. I gotta fire that off, and then I can activate our Xayamine for the Sharkusai here. I'm gonna go for the Rising Carp. It's a little bit risky in case they have Ash Blossom, which is not totally unlikely given how few cards my opponent's been playing. But if I recall correctly, they don't have it here. Yeah, which is pretty good for us. Oh, they have a Nib, though. That's right. We do get hit with a Nibiru here, which is pretty far from ideal. But I can still use Deer Note here to get Wagon. And I didn't activate Wagon's effect here because this was the game where, actually, if we take a look at my deck list here, yeah, I did forget the field spell. Yeah, but you know what? I do like having a level 3 monster on the field going into my opponent's turn. My plan was to just normal summon one of my hand traps and then go for a Zeus, but we can definitely do better here with the Foxy Tune, going for Xayamine. We're going to activate that. Opponent's going to use Call By as a means of banishing the other Xayamine in our graveyard to then negate the one on the field as well. But that's fine. I'll just go for my original plan of going for a rank 3. Not a problem. I'm effectively actually in the exact same spot I planned to be before. Opponent even Ghost Warners the Chariot Carry, which I was even debating if I even wanted to activate the Chariot Carry's effect, because, like, yeah, I could grab the trap card, or I could just not activate her and then have a Zeus with a second board wipe. So I was already on the fence of not activating Chariot Carry. If my opponent wants to throw out their last card to just make me not use it anyway, I'm like, that's 100% fine. I'll board wipe what they have and then just pass over to them. Now they're in top deck mode going into a live Zeus. So that's a pretty good position for me to be in. It's not a good position for them to be in. So I get an Ogre Dance here, which does let me get another Xayamine, but I don't really have Punk monsters left in my deck that aren't level 8s, so I can't summon anything with Foxy Tune if I search that. So I'm just going to grab another Ogre Dance and then just summon it. It'll be another big body. It's so close to lethal. Not quite though, 600 off, but you know, they're still in top deck mode going into not only me holding the Zeus board wipe, but also the Ash Blossom in hand. So yeah, when they finally rip the Prosperity, even then I just get the Ash Blossom, and then I believe they just concede, yeah, in response to that, which makes sense. So okay, there is, yeah, 12-turn Duel against Kashtira. Pretty bad matchup. We don't want our stuff to get banished, but we were still able to play it through anyway. Let's see the next game here. Okay, this opponent is going to be on Mathmech. Mathmech. I do like that deck. They are playing the Microcoder package, as well as multiple additions and subtractions, I believe. Which I think is a fine build. It's a cool thing about Mathmech. There's a lot of different ways you can play it, or build it, and play it too. But anyway, we're going first here. Going to Foxy Tune, being met with an Ash Blossom. We do have the call by, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull the trigger on that. Foxy Tune is a combo line by itself that will get you plays. If you're playing the Shark, Husai, and Rising Carp. I specify that because, of course, in a Punk deck, you would always play those, but there are a number of decks that can use Punk as an engine. Okay, yeah, let me pause here because we do also get Drolled here, and that will ultimately end up affecting our plays, so we can't search off of Wagon. Even if we could, we couldn't get draws off the field spell. And we can't search with Jam, Dragon, Drive. So what I'm going to do here is I'm still going to go for the Rising Carp. And I'm going to use Rising Carp to go for Zayamine as well as Deer Note. Because I want to keep Wagon and Joruri Madam Spider in the deck for future uses. Because they can't search here anyway, right? So I get to make Dragite. Bring back the Zayamine. I still have the Captain Carry, so I can special her. And now I can overlay Zayamine and Chariot Carry for Cicada King. So I feel like this is a pretty reasonable compromise to play under Droll, right? Like, it's not a full board, but going into our opponent's 4 cards, we have Max C, an on-board monster effect negate, and a spell trap card negate. So definitely going to use Max C in response to the Circular here. Hoping to really hoping to draw the Nibiru and or Ash Blossom. Yeah, this is the game where I'm like, if these Imperms or Veilors would have been so much better. It's kind of what made me think that here. Also, the Cicada King is only a negate again for monster effects on the field, so that is worth noting here. I'm not using it here though because, like, you know, even if I negated the Splash Mage, they still have more than enough materials to combo off. So, okay, now here when I saw Update Jammer, I was actually pretty excited because I'm like, oh, they're gonna go for Update Jammer access code, sick. But no, they do actually end up going for the Terahertz, which is the correct play here. Because if they had gone for Update Jammer access code, then during the battle phase, it could have used Imperm on the access code, and it wouldn't have been an OTK, right? So I have the opportunity to Ghost Ogre or Cicada King the Terahertz here, but the problem is Terahertz negates any monster effects activated by your opponent during the battle phase. So even if I had used either, well, I did use the Ghost Ogre to demonstrate, but even if I'd used Cicada King as well, they both would have just been negated. So unfortunately, that is going to be a loss, but it was pretty close. I think we were still able to play very well under Droll. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to show this game. And like I said, if they had actually gone for Update Jammer access code, they would have popped my board, then I could have impermed, negated the access code, then they wouldn't have been able to kill me. Also, if I had drawn Nibiru, that would have been an out to the OTK line, obviously. There were a lot of ways that we could have potentially played around this, and I do think it was pretty close. Okay, we do have one more game to see. Let's check that out. Alright, so my last opponent cooked up something pretty neat here. They're on Raidraptor Superheavy Samurai. And we're going to see a little bit of the ladder engine. Unfortunately, we don't really see that many Raidraptor plays from what I recall, but we're going second here. We do have Ghost Ogre and Imperm. So as soon as I see the Wakaushi, I'm like, yeah, easy Ghost Ogre. But they do actually have a Gamma here, which is pretty devastating. I'm like, wow, that's brutal. And I think if my opponent had been on a pure Super Heavy Samurai or like a regular build, quote unquote, like, I mean, I don't know. They were still in a really good position here, but I feel like I would have gotten wrecked harder. I mean, I say that, but I don't think I even knew this was a weird build for this first turn. Yeah, because they're going to Omega Hand Whip, which isn't too uncommon for this deck to be playing Omega. I did think it was weird that they didn't go for Soul Piercer here. So yeah, they're going to go for the Soul Gaia booster instead, and then just use that with the Wakaushi to make the Excel Synchro Stardust. And I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to imperm this Excel Synchro so that way they can't make the Baron de Fleur. But I don't think... Did they have Motorbike in the yard? Let me see here. No, but they had Gamma, that's right, so they could still make... Right. So yeah, so this was the point where I was like, whoa, 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 hold on. What is this? Phantom Knight's Sacred Boots, or Silent Boots, okay, and Sacred Crane? A lot of people might not even know that this card exists, but this card actually saw some play way back in the day. This is an old card from Invasion of Chaos, and there used to be a Reasoning Monster Gate Turbo build where your main thing you would summon is either Sacred Crane to draw more cards or Dark Magician of Chaos to play more Reasonings or Monster Gates. So I saw this get Pendulum Summoned and I was like, no way, what are they cooking? What are they cooking with Sacred Crane? That's wild. And indeed, it is also a level 4 Winged Beast, so it does have that synergy with the Raidraptors. But yeah, no, after Pen summoning these, they passed, and I was like, oh, I thought you were going to do something really cool. Like, when I saw those, I was like, what the hell? So I'm going to get Drolled again, another game where we're playing under the Droll and Lockbird. So this time around, I just don't think there's anything I can do. I'm just going to have to set the start your engines and pass. So I'm obviously not in that good of a position at all, but they just moved to battle phase, and this wasn't lethal. I don't know if they didn't have any other plays, or if they just miscounted, because I feel like they should have been able to lethal me here. Thank God we top decked this Ash Blossom against the Maxi. Yeah, it was very, very, very lucky on my part here. Alright, so the Ogre Dance, not a bad top deck at all. I'm going to Xayamine and then activate Deer Note to summon the Ogre Dance. My main priority here is to just get the, what's it called? The Psychic End Punisher on board as soon as possible. The Omega does actually stop me from summoning the Ogre here, but what I can do is still Xayamine F for the Foxy Tune, and then summon the Deer Note. Now I'm going to Sync for 8 for the Dragite. I actually could have activated Dragite and potentially revealed Nibiru. That's kind of funny. Maybe I should have done that. But no, with the Deer Note, I get to bring back Xayamine, Synchro Summon with the Dragite for Psychic End Punisher. Now, my opponent just concedes, because, yeah, as soon as I move to battle phase, Psychic End Punisher will gain attack equal to the difference for our life points, which I was at 300. So, 7,700 plus 3,500. My Psychic End Punisher would have had 11,200 attack points. So yeah, I could have swung in on the Silent Boots for a casual 11,000 points of damage for lethal there. But that was a wild game. That was there were so many points in that duel where I was like, I'm just cooked. They have it, and I somehow managed to lethal them anyway. So good stuff. Cool deck, well played. That's gonna do it for this video. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.